All right, everyone, time to start off the day talking about the Trump social media summit. It's got Ben Garrison's going. I think Bill Mitchell, Charlie Kirk, PragerU is invited. Notably, this is the news this morning. I was looking it up just to, sort of see if I could find like a guest list. The big news of the day, Facebook and Twitter are not allowed at the social media summit that Trump is holding. Now, people on the left are complaining. They're like, oh my God, Ben Garrison, the Nazi. It's like, you took the bait. If you think that Ben Garrison has a Nazi bone in his fucking body, then you either have spent a lot of time on 4chan or a lot of time on BuzzFeed. And it's interesting how the former is able to con the latter regularly because the latter is so fucking stupid. BuzzFeed or Salon or Vox or Huffington Post. Oh my God, Ben Garrison, he makes Nazi cartoons. Oh, really? The one criticizing George Soros is a Nazi cartoon? George Soros? You can criticize George Soros. It wouldn't matter if he was Jewish or not. He'd still be a scumbag. It doesn't matter. He can be 100% totally non-kosher. He can eat nothing but an all-bacon diet and he's still a scumbag. So fucking who cares? Ben Garrison, a Nazi. Don't make me laugh. But PragerU, they've been, algorithmically demoted forever by YouTube. Ben Garrison, I think, was it Instagram that kicked him off? One of these sites did. Now, but here's the funny part. It's funny watching people who are supposedly liberal proclaim that Trump is like Orange Man bad for this. What he's doing is he's taking people's private individuals, private citizens impacted by censorship and small organizations, and he's giving them a seat at the table. All Congress has ever done is take a bunch of multinational corporate lawyers and billionaire CEOs and talk to them and handle them with kid gloves. Now, who's more populistic and people friendly? Which of these approaches is more actually liberal? Trump's approach. Trump's approach is the liberal one here, as opposed to maybe the moralistic and extremist approach of Congress or of some of these left-wing hacks. It's easy to talk to a multi-billion-dollar corporation, especially if you got Zuckerberg there and you don't even put him under oath or something like that. Very interesting. This is perfect timing too, because tech censorship is really heating up. There is a lot of bias, unfairness, and censorship on these firms. What I have said repeatedly, and I've seen people literally talking to the people on Twitter that are going to this social media conference that Trump is holding and begging them to bring this up. The one best thing that they can tell Trump and make this abundantly clear to him and everybody else at the social media summit, these sites platform government services. They use taxpayer money in so doing. They are public platforms. Twitter platforms the USGS. You can get alerts. You saw the California earthquake recently. There were people who were alerted to the fact that the quake had happened before the shock actually hit them because they signed up for some alert on Twitter or some similar service. If they had been banned, they wouldn't have gotten the alert now, would they? That would have been a little bit of a problem. Maybe they got hit in the head by a metal pitcher falling off of their wall because they didn't get the alert. That's problematic, yeah. That's a potential life-saving service. Weather alerts. Oh, a supercell is forming 10 minutes west of you. You might want to make sure that you're indoors. You say, oh, maybe I'll go out for a picnic, and you don't make it because you get struck by lightning. Hailstorm comes through, beans you on the head, you're fucking knocked out in the middle of the woods, and they find your decapitated corpse the next day, pounded into mincemeat because of all the hailstones the size of golf balls. Something like that happens. Now, I know that that's hyperbolic. I know that that's like a 1 in a million chance that anything like that happens. But what if it's you? What if you're an American taxpayer? You're paying money through the nose to the government. You can't even use the services that are there? By the way, the other attack line, very, very simple. Federal judge has already ruled, I can't remember which circuit it was, that Trump's Twitter is a public platform. He can't block people, for example. If you're a U.S. citizen, you can say whatever you want on Trump's thing. He can't block you. So why can Twitter prevent you from accessing it? Why can Twitter prevent any U.S. citizen who's not breaking the law or spamming, which is, bot and spamming behavior is a gray area. I happen to think that it tilts towards, it's not really speech or expression because it's trying to prevent others from speaking and expressing. It's sort of like taking a megaphone to a public meeting to shout someone down. No, you shouldn't be able to do that. They have the right to speak. You can hold a counter rally if you want to. Erect your own platform. Draw your own audiences, stop being shitty. Other than that, though, no. If someone's not breaking U.S. law, they should be able to use all of these different things. Google, the Google Cloud, do you think it doesn't hold government material? Of course it does. Both privately held, by figures therein, and publicly held, taxpayer-funded archives and shit like that. Of course they do. Facebook. All these government services have Facebook pages, and most have Twitter pages. In some cases, you can even DM them. What about airlines? You can DM and get questions answered from the airlines. Airlines aren't fully privatized either. So you've got all of these different goods and services that are either public or partially public that are making use of social media. And by the way, for strictly pragmatic reasons, any conservative that thinks that tech censorship is a good idea can't possibly be a fiscal conservative, because you're essentially taking US creators and demoting them along European lines to make foreigners more competitive. It's like on YouTube. Think about it this way. YouTube's a US firm. When it makes money, supposedly anyway, it pays taxes into the US Treasury, into this collective coffer of the United States budget. Supposedly, because they use tax havens like every multinational firm does. Those should be closed. Trump's trying to close the tax loopholes. Congress won't go for it. So that's their problem. Supposedly that's happening. When US creators are selling merch or gaining views and gaining ad revenue or something, it's staying in the US or foreign money's coming to the US. It's a big money sponge. It's great for the US economy. These tech firms want to demote US creators down to the same dumbed down level as in tyrannies like the UK, where people aren't allowed to have an opinion without a license. That's problematic. It means less money for the US economy. So where are all of these fiscal conservatives to defend the US budget? We wouldn't need as many taxes if we were maximizing revenue now, would we? People are getting fucked. They're getting screwed up the ass on a daily basis by these big tech firms. Trump finally says, well, it is a problem. He acknowledges it's a problem and he's a Nazi. He acknowledges that censorship is a problem and people call him a Nazi for it because the people that are mainly being censored are supposedly on the right. Who fucking cares? So some random evangelocon is a Nazi now too, just because they say Jesus, Jesus? No, they're not a Nazi. They're just an evangelocon. Some tradcon's like, well, I want to have a squeaky clean picket fence house and the quarter-acre lot and the little trees out front, the little pomegranate tree and my little wife and 2 kids in a 2-car garage. That's not an extremist view to have. That's just someone with maybe a fiscally antiquated view at this point. Numbnuts. Anyone who supports censorship is no friend of mine. Because they want me to get screwed up the ass too, partially. But I mean, it's anathema to the very founding goals of the United States. No, the founders never would have suggested, you know what? The First Amendment just cuts off at the government. It's perfectly okay if a private entity that controls virtually all human communication should start censoring people, especially when it platforms goods and services. Like imagine some monopoly back in the 1700s springs up in making printing presses. And of course, you can literally make your own press, so it'd be different. You can't make your own Facebook. You can't make your own internet. It's total monopolization. It's a total trust. It's already illegal what these tech firms are engaged in. Imagine that someone owns 90% of all the presses. And they own all the presses in New England. They're like, oh, well, you're not allowed to use them because you print stuff that I don't like. And you're not allowed to make your own press because of copyright or because we're just going to come and bust up your press. By the way, they used to do that. Back in the Tammany Hall era, they would literally go and they would attack one another's presses. There's some opposition political movement. They liked a different candidate. You'd go in and you'd ruin their press. And so they wouldn't be able to speak. And it was illegal to do this. This form of sabotage is seen as one of the darkest eras of human history in the United States. And we're replicating it now, only now we're giving that power to multi-billionaires that control worldwide human communication. Yes, it's absolutely problematic. It shouldn't be happening. Trump is good to have this summit. Hopefully something comes of it. One thing I would say is, though, you need more creators. Why aren't there a few prominent YouTubers on this panel? I think Bill Mitchell's there, and I've heard of him. I know that he's a MAGA sort of person, but I don't know that much about his views. And Kirk is there, it's fine. Some of these others. And Ben Garrison, probably the most. Hopefully he listens. I hope he seats Ben Garrison right next to him and he's just chatting at him the entire time. I hope Ben Garrison can explain to Trump, look, Twitter already has weather alerts, USGS alerts, all these politicians use it. Yours is already a public platform, and yet US citizens can be banned by Twitter from ever utilizing that public platform. It's exactly the same as the company, I can't remember the The case involving a company town that wanted to ban people from distributing literature, I think it was like Jehovah's Witnesses or something. They're like, no, you can't do that. The court came and said, yes, they can, because essentially you've created a public space in the way that you've structured things. Twitter is a public space. It is explicitly for human communication between entities. That's the explicit purpose and the only purpose, in fact, of Twitter. It already has government services on there that my money pays for. If I am banned from Twitter, my constitutional rights are being violated. Equal access under the law has been violated. It's clear-cut. Any court in the land taking the case up would find that way. It's just a matter of the fact that these groups have billions of dollars to throw at legal teams to drag it out forever and prevent it from ever going to a high enough court. So it needs executive action. It needs to become a Supreme Court case. Yes, the Supreme Court needs to be brought in. Trump should get involved by executive action. It'll get blocked by the Ninth Circuit, and it can go before SCOTUS. And that's when tech censorship hopefully gets ended on amiable terms that work for the average American. That's really what we need to do, because right now it works for, the 1/1,000,000th of 1% that actually runs Silicon Valley and literally nobody else. That's about all. Peace out.